Most people spend their lives running from problems. They avoid them, complain about them, or wait for someone else to fix them. But what if I told you that the very thing you are calling a problem is the doorway to your next breakthrough? Your problems are not here to destroy you. They are here to shape you. Every challenge you face is a demand for growth. Life will keep giving you the same problem again and again until you become the person capable of handling it. The moment you change, the problem either disappears or transforms into an opportunity. Think about this. When everything is easy, you don't grow. Comfort makes you weak. Pressure builds strength. Just like muscles grow by resistance, your character grows through adversity. The hardest moments in your life are training grounds preparing you for a bigger future. The pain you feel right now has a purpose. It's forcing you to develop new skills, stronger discipline, and deeper awareness. Problems wake you up. They push you to think differently, act differently, and rise to a level you've never reached before. The question is not, why is this happening to me? The real question is, what is this trying to teach me? The moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a learner, everything changes. Problems become signals, obstacles become instructions, and struggle becomes transformation. Your biggest problem today may become the reason you are stronger, wiser, and more successful tomorrow if you choose to use it. Problems are the invisible force that shapes who you become, whether you like it or not. When life places pressure on you, it is not doing so randomly or cruelly. It is responding to the level of strength, awareness, and capacity you have built so far. Growth never happens in comfort because comfort asks nothing from you. It allows your habits to stay the same, your thinking to remain unchallenged, and your potential to stay dormant. Problems, on the other hand, demand expansion. They force you to confront the limits of who you are and invite you to become more. Every meaningful improvement in your life has been preceded by difficulty. You did not learn discipline when things were easy. You learned it when you had no choice but to show up tired, scared, or uncertain. You did not build confidence by winning effortlessly. You built it by failing, adjusting, and standing back up. Problems push you into action when motivation alone is not enough. They remove the option of staying the same. When faced with resistance, you either rise or repeat the same cycle again and again until you do. Human beings grow only when they are stretched. Just like a muscle that must tear before it becomes stronger, your mind, emotions, and character must be challenged before they evolve. Problems create that necessary tension. They expose weaknesses you didn't know existed and strengths you didn't know you had. Without problems, those weaknesses would stay hidden and those strengths would remain unused. The challenge is not the enemy, stagnation is. A life without problems is not a life of freedom, but a life of limitation. Many people misunderstand growth because they associate it with feeling good. Real growth often feels uncomfortable, confusing, and even painful. Problems disrupt your routines and question your identity. They ask you to reevaluate your beliefs, your decisions, and sometimes even your sense of self. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is proof that something is changing. When you resist that discomfort, you resist growth. When you lean into it, you evolve. Problems also sharpen focus. When everything is smooth, attention is scattered. But when something is on the line, your future, your dignity, your survival, you suddenly become present. You think more deeply, act more decisively, and commit more fully. Problems eliminate distraction. They clarify what matters and expose what doesn't. In that clarity, growth accelerates. You begin to operate with urgency, purpose, and intention. Another powerful way problems force growth is by developing emotional strength. Easy lives create fragile people. The first sign of difficulty breaks them, but repeated challenges build resilience. Each problem you face and survive increases your capacity to handle the next one. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable, even routine. This is not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. Growth is not about avoiding storms. It is about becoming someone who can walk through them without losing direction. Problems also force you to upgrade your thinking. Old strategies stop working under new pressure. The mindset that got you this far cannot take you where you need to go next. When a problem blocks your path, it is life's way of saying that a new level of thinking is required. You must question assumptions, learn new skills, and adopt new perspectives. Growth happens the moment you stop asking for the problem to go away and start asking how to become bigger than it. One of the most overlooked aspects of problems is that they reveal identity. When everything is calm, anyone can appear confident, kind, or disciplined. But under pressure, your true habits and beliefs surface. Problems show you who you are and who you are not yet. This awareness is essential for growth. You cannot improve what you refuse to see. Problems hold up a mirror, and while the reflection may be uncomfortable, it is honest. Growth begins with truth. Problems also build self-trust. Every time you face difficulty and keep moving forward, you send a PO. Wordful message to yourself, I can handle this. That belief compounds over time. Confidence is not built through positive thinking alone. It is built through proven experience. When you overcome problems, even small ones, you accumulate evidence of your own capability. Growth is accelerated when belief is backed by action. It is important to understand that problems do not grow you automatically. How you respond to them does. Two people can face the same challenge and experience completely different outcomes. One becomes bitter, the other becomes better. The difference lies in perception and choice. Growth happens when you take responsibility, when you stop blaming circumstances and start controlling your response. Problems are raw material. Growth is the product you create from it. Avoiding problems may feel safe in the short term, but it guarantees stagnation in the long term. Every avoided challenge becomes a future limitation. Growth requires courage. The courage to face uncertainty, to risk failure, and to endure discomfort. Problems are the gateways through which courage is developed. Without them, courage remains theoretical. With them, it becomes real. In the end, problems are not interruptions to your life. They are the curriculum. They are the training sessions that prepare you for bigger roles, greater impact, and deeper fulfillment. Growth is not a straight line, and it is rarely comfortable, but it is always purposeful. When you stop seeing problems as threats and start seeing them as demands for growth, you reclaim your power. What once felt like an obstacle becomes a signal that you are being called to rise, expand, and step into a stronger version of yourself. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. Most people spend their days trying to escape it, numb it, or pretend it doesn't exist. Yet pain is not random and it is not meaningless. It is a signal. It is communication. It is life's way of getting your attention when comfort has made you ignore the deeper truths you need to face. When something hurts, whether emotionally, mentally, or physically, it is pointing towards something that requires awareness, change, or growth. Pain enters your life when something is misaligned, your actions, your values, your expectations, or your direction. If pain had no purpose, it would not be so persistent. It stays until the lesson is learned. When you avoid listening to it, pain grows louder. When you confront it honestly, pain becomes a guide. It pushes you to ask difficult questions you would never ask when everything feels fine. It forces reflection. It demands attention. And in that demand lies its teaching power. Every major turning point in a person's life is usually preceded by pain. People rarely change when they are comfortable. They change when staying the same hurts more than transforming. Pain creates that moment of truth where excuses lose their power. Suddenly, the habits you once tolerated become unbearable. The relationships you once accepted become suffocating. The life you once settled for no longer fits. Pain exposes the cost of inaction and makes growth unavoidable. Emotional pain, in particular, is a powerful teacher. It reveals attachment, fear, unmet expectations, and unresolved wounds. When you feel hurt, rejected, or disappointed, it is often because reality collided with a belief you were holding on to. Pain forces you to examine those beliefs. Were they realistic? Were they serving you? Were they based on truth or on fear? Without pain, these internal conflicts would remain hidden, silently shaping your life. Pain brings them to the surface so they can be addressed. Pain also teaches boundaries. Many people learn self-respect only after experiencing disrespect. They learn the value of their time after it has been wasted. They learn the importance of their voice after being silenced. Pain draws the line where you failed to. It shows you where you allowed too much, gave too little to yourself, or compromised what mattered most. In this way, pain becomes a teacher of self-worth. It instructs you on where to stand firmer next time. Another lesson pain teaches is humility. Pain strips away illusions of control and forces you to accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. It reminds you that you are human, not invincible. This humility is not weakness, it is grounding. It opens you to learning. When pride fades, growth begins. Pain humbles you enough to listen, to ask for help, and to change course. Without it, ego would keep you stuck in patterns that no longer serve you. Pain also builds emotional intelligence. When you allow yourself to feel pain instead of suppressing it, you develop awareness of your inner world. You learn to identify emotions, understand triggers, and respond rather than react. This awareness is essential for long-term growth. Pain teaches patience with yourself. It teaches compassion for others. When you have felt deep pain, you recognize it in others, and empathy grows. That empathy strengthens relationships and deepens connection. One of the most powerful lessons pain teaches is resilience. Pain shows you that you can survive experiences you once believed would break you. The first encounter with pain feels overwhelming because it is unfamiliar. But each time you endure, adapt, and continue, you expand your capacity. Over time, you realize that pain is not the end, it is a passage. This realization changes how you face future challenges. Fear loses its grip when you know you can endure discomfort and still move forward. Pain also teaches clarity. It eliminates illusions and reveals truth. When something hurts deeply, because it matters. Pain clarifies priorities. It forces you to ask what is worth holding on to and what must be released. Many people discover their purpose through pain because it removes distractions and focuses attention on what truly matters. Pain cuts through noise and brings life into sharp focus. Ignoring pain does not make it disappear, it transforms it into suffering. Suffering is pain without understanding. But when you listen to pain, reflect on it, and learn from it, it becomes wisdom. The lesson may not be immediate, and it may not be comfortable, but it is always valuable. Pain that is understood becomes a source of strength. Pain that is denied becomes a cycle. Pain also teaches responsibility. It shows you the consequences of choices, patterns, and beliefs. This is not about blame, it is about ownership. When you recognize the role you played in your pain, you reclaim your power. You move from victimhood to authorship. Pain teaches you that while you cannot control everything that happens, you can control how you respond and what you learn from it. In the end, pain is not your enemy. It is a messenger. It arrives to redirect, to awaken, and to strengthen. It challenges you to become more aware, more aligned, and more authentic. When you stop fighting pain and start listening to it, transformation begins. Pain does not come to punish you, it comes to prepare you. And once the lesson is learned, the pain no longer needs to stay. Perspective is the invisible force that determines how much power you have in any situation. Two people can face the same problem, the same loss, the same pressure, and walk away with completely different outcomes, not because life treated them differently, but because they interpreted the experience differently. What you focus on, what you tell yourself, and how you define a situation shapes your emotional state, your decisions, and ultimately your results. Perspective is not just how you see the world, it is how you experience it. Most people believe that circumstances create their emotions, but that is an illusion. It is not the event itself that controls you, it is the meaning you assign to it. When you label a challenge as unfair, impossible, or personal, you drain your own energy. You feel defeated before you even act. But when you label the same challenge as a test, a lesson, or a signal for growth, your energy shifts. You move from helplessness to curiosity, from fear to engagement. That shift alone creates power. Your perspective determines whether you feel trapped or capable. When problems arise, the mind naturally searches for danger. This is a survival instinct, but if left unchecked, it turns into limitation. The mind exaggerates risk, replays worst-case scenarios, and convinces you that you are not enough. Changing perspective does not mean denying difficulty. It means choosing a meaning that empowers action rather than paralysis. Power is born the moment you decide that a problem is something you can work with instead of something that defines you. Perspective also shapes identity. If you see yourself as someone to whom life keeps happening, you will always react. If you see yourself as someone who is shaping their response to life, you begin to lead. The way you interpret challenges becomes a story you tell about who you are. Over time, these stories solidify into identity. A person who consistently sees obstacles as opportunities develops confidence, adaptability, and courage, not because life is easier, but because their perspective fuels effective behavior. One of the most important shifts in perspective is moving from "why is this happening to me" to "what can I learn from this?" The first question reinforces victimhood. It keeps you focused on loss and injustice. The SEC. Unquestioned restores agency. It places you back in control. Learning-oriented perspectives turn setbacks into data. Failure becomes feedback. Pain becomes information. This shift does not remove difficulty, but it transforms how you engage with it. Perspective also influences emotional endurance. When you believe that a problem is permanent, emotions feel heavier and more overwhelming. When you understand that everything is temporary and evolving, emotional weight becomes manageable. Perspective introduces patience. It allows you to hold discomfort without panicking. You realize that this moment is not your entire life, and that understanding alone creates emotional space to breathe, think, and act more wisely. Your perspective determines where your attention goes, and attention is energy. When you focus on what you cannot control, your energy drains away. When you focus on what you can influence, your actions, your effort, your attitude, energy returns. Perspective is a filter. It decides whether you see limitations or options. The more you train yourself to look for choices, even in constrained situations, the more power you reclaim over your life. Perspective also strengthens resilience. Resilient people are not those who avoid hardship, they are those who interpret hardship in a way that sustains movement. When setbacks occur, they do not ask if they should continue, they ask how. Their perspective keeps them engaged rather than discouraged. This does not mean blind optimism. It means grounded optimism. The belief that even if the path is hard, progress is possible. Changing perspective requires awareness. Many people live inside unconscious interpretations formed by past experiences, fear, or conditioning. They react automatically without questioning the meaning they assign to events. Power begins when you pause and examine your thoughts. Is this interpretation hell? Full? Is it accurate? Is there another way to see this situation that would expand my options? The ability to question your own perspective is one of the highest forms of personal power. Perspective also shapes relationships. How you interpret others' actions influences your reactions. If you assume negative intent, conflict grows. If you assume misunderstanding or limitation, compassion increases. This does not mean tolerating harmful behavior. It means choosing interpretations that lead to clarity and constructive response rather than unnecessary emotional damage. Perspective allows you to respond with intention instead of impulse. Over time, consistent perspective shifts compound. Small changes in interpretation lead to different decisions. Different decisions lead to different habits. Different habits lead to different outcomes. Perspective is the root from which behavior grows. When you change the root, the results change naturally. This is why perspective is power. It influences everything downstream. In the end, you may not control every circumstance, but you always control the meaning you give it. That meaning shapes your emotions, directs your actions, and defines your future. When you learn to consciously choose perspectives that strengthen you rather than weaken you, problems lose their dominance. They become challenges to navigate instead of walls to stop you. Your power does not come from avoiding difficulty. It comes from the way you see it and the way you decide to move forward because of it.